The research team talk about the exhibition Waterways on the Western Front.
What makes this exhibition so significant is that although it was an enormous human endeavour, there is really nowhere that has collected together all the information that the exhibition has drawn on. There is no book that explains what the Waterways on the Western Front were doing during the war, and there's no collection of pictures, no film that articulates it either. And that's why I think anyone who comes to the exhibition will find it really rewarding, refreshing, and a completely new perspective on what was going on during World War I.
The things I found out about the use of hospital barges on the waterways of the Western Front were fascinating. Particularly the difference it made to very, very badly wounded men, because of course by travelling by water they didn't have the jars that they would have on the very bumpy, horrible roads or by train. The other thing that was very interesting was the incredible bravery of the medical staff who worked on the boats, because whilst they were not working on the front line and behind the front line, they were close enough to suffer some of the explosions. On one occasion, one of the nurses had a piece of shrapnel arrive on her bed when she was actually in it, which must have been quite terrifying.
Hospital barges weren't just for people, they were also for some of the horses that got wounded and were taken to the main veterinary centres.
I think the two aspects of my research that I found most interesting were the port of Richborough and the use of Chinese labourers. The port itself is just a fascinating story in that so much work was done in such a short amount of time, and it was all done completely in secret, and the whole operation was clandestine even from the government, and I think that's just a very interesting, fascinating story that's never been told before.
And it got even more extraordinary. We found that a lot of the British troops were actually supplied with drinking water from the canals after it had been purified, I hasten to add.
What I found really surprising about this period of time was that what was the efficiency of the organization inside and outside of the country. For the commission to bring the food, the money, the clothes inside the country, and after the effort of the same Belgians that had to distribute all these foodstuffs all around Belgium and leave no one without food, not even for one day.
From the early days of the war, when the Germans were coming through Belgium and were threatening to take the Channel ports, and through an amazing piece of ingenuity by a Belgian tugboat owner, their positions were flooded, they were forced to retreat, and they never crossed that line in the whole of the war.
When we were discussing amongst the research team about the involvement of the Chinese workforce, I happened to mention my great-grandfather. He was a captain in the Royal Engineers, and both at the beginning and at the end of the First World War he was working with considerable numbers of the Chinese workforce, and at the very end of the war he was involved with a lot of the clearing up operation in Belgium and northern France, and he got one of his workforce to engrave a brass shell case, and being Chinese they engraved it with Chinese design, so we have this beautiful well, it's an umbrella stand now, but it's engraved with a Chinese dragon, and it's a really direct link to everything that we've been discussing and researching, and it somehow brought it really to life for me.
We were surprised at the scale of the use of waterways during World War I, and we were also surprised at the extraordinary versatility of uses to which they were put. And combining these two things has created one of the most fascinating exhibitions.